All right.
I've actually been vaccinated. That's where I'm going.
Ah, okay. Well, unfortunately, so 5750 West Thunderbird. Oh my God, I'm probably just gonna have you be my last ride because 57 and Thunderbird puts me really close to home.
So you gotta love me.
Well, I had already set my GPS to head towards home. And I seen your ride, it said 45 minutes. I'm like, yes! Because I'm all the way out here.
Oh shit, what happened?
But as for the vaccinations, at this point, the CDC still says everyone should be wearing masks, whether you're double vaxxed
not
or
if you're
not.
vaccinated. They say you don't need the quarantine, you don't need to do any of that. You know?
Well, okay, Uber says.
I'm getting fed up with this shit because when you look at the actual numbers, they lied because only 94% or 96%, I forget which, right? Were not due to COVID.
Right. Of course.
The other ones were underlying major conditions like being 90, drunk driving, getting shot.
Oh yeah.
And plus the test that they gave them was for COVID-2, which we've all had over the years. They came out with a better test to check for COVID-19. And now, since they got Biden in office, well, they're going to change the numbers. I mean, I'm so sick of this bullshit.
Believe me, I'm right there with you. So I hate the masks and all the quarantine, yada yada yada.
Yeah, this is the one thing to submit. They thought we were going to submit under the, and I hate to say that, but the facts are just plain as day. The bullshit about climate change. I mean, it keeps getting colder, and that proves it's warmer. And this, I mean, here, just CO2. Wait, our atmosphere is 71% nitrogen, 28% oxygen, right? 0.9% argon, 2 other gases, and then 0.00004% CO2. Of that amount, right?
Yeah.
Man-made CO2 is only 5% of that. And CO2, and I remember when I took, chemistry, is a heavy weak greenhouse gas. When it's heavy, it's in the lower part of the atmosphere where it can't hold the heat in. But what they're doing is, if you control carbon, you control life. You control every aspect of life. Construction, electricity generation, you control food, everything.
Of course.
And this fucking mask shit, I'm sorry, man, but I got the shot because I have family in D.C.
Right.
My brother-in-law, I got cool pictures, carries the nuclear football.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He did it for Biden as vice president, then Obama, and then he left, he got into a think tank, made, millions, and then he worked in the Trump administration, right? And our conversations, I mean, I'm the oldest of 8, we had 9, I have 5 people went to fucking, Ivy League, schools.
Right.
My other cousin married the head of the the World Bank in Beijing. They moved back here. She said it's a sewer there, but she's very liberal. Worked for Hillary's campaign in that, for Senate.
Okay.
But my brother-in-law, I mean, he's conservative. I said we have good, intelligent conversations.
Right.
And my brother, I lived out in San Diego before here. He's an aviator. Also was there taking organic chemistry and got his law degree at Notre Dame, and he's an aviator. And I used to get on the carrier. I was cool. And the shit. The reason why I got the vaccinations, January, USAMRIID, they were out to have drinks, and they came back and said this. They're 95% sure it was a biological weapon, and in it they found SARS, they found HIV, and they also found on the spikes, the protein spikes, to make it very, what do you call it, infectious and mutate fast. And that just came out yesterday in the news. They said brand new. This finding was back in January. That they said there are spikes on it that make it like 20 to 100 times more infectious than the other COVID-2. So, and it mutates quickly. And we're seeing now that we've got new strains of it. But I mean, otherwise, I would have just, you know, if I wasn't, for me, I would have rather got it and gone over it. But I'm around some people who aren't the healthiest. And
Right.
I didn't want to get them sick.
Right. I would agree with you right there. I mean, especially doing this work, apparently they have no more phase 1 vaccines available at this point. Otherwise, I would have signed up to get my first dose. But they're not taking any new first dosers, so I'm waiting.
Well, they were making them. Biden's been lying. I mean, they're catching him. Even though the fact checkers is lying all the time. I mean, he said there was no vaccines when he got in office, and somebody went like this to him: President Biden, you were vaccinated in fucking December with both shots. What do you mean there were no vaccines? And he's like this: Jill, where's my puppy? That senile fuck. I hate that guy.
I don't know.
I hate him because, I mean, Iran was ranked the #1 terrorist nation in the world, right? And they are. And he wants to give them, and they had parallel programs. Israel sent, Mossad. It was very cool operation into Tehran. They broke in and got to the files and got them out. There were 2 parallel programs. Obama and them didn't trust them. And if you read the deal, the inspections, the ranch, the main site, they had a camera. Epstein had a camera. He got killed. I mean, they only had a camera. You weren't allowed to have inspectors go there. And with soil samples, the International Atomic IAEA, right?
Right.
Iran would send them the samples. And they weren't allowed at Iranian military bases or confidential sites. And Iran could call anything. Inspectors came there. That's a military site. You can't go in. And they could hold off any inspection 28 days. And we go back, and at that point, the joint group, France, Britain, Russia, China, and us, Russia or China could veto the inspection. There were no inspections. And right now, they're finding huge amounts of enrichment uranium. I don't know. But the thing with the climate, the Paris Accord, just use this, common sense. The #1 polluter in the world, and the #1 polluter of CO2 is who?
China.
Right. #2 is India.
Right.
The U.S. is way down, right?
Yeah.
Now, Obama's Paris Accords, now Biden, right?
Yeah.
Make the U.S. cut 25%, which will quadruple utility costs, and that'll make China's allowed to build 40 coal plants a year. They're allowed to increase until 2030 their CO2 emissions 400%. Now, if the #1 guy is increasing at 400%, the #2 guy is increasing at maybe at 400%. What is going to bring these numbers down and fix the climate? mean, it's simple math.
Yeah.
You're going to be putting a lot more into the atmosphere, but you're hurting our country.
Yeah.
And it's like this. Well, I'm not kidding you. We've had talks like this, and you know what they come back with? Well, we've got to, make the effort. I'm like, you're talking about feelings again. We're not talking numbers.
Yeah.
At least Israel said, I like what Israel said, Trump got United Arab Emirates, was it Bahrain, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia all become allies of Israel, which is amazing.
Right.
And Obama, they were also going to counter Iran. And Biden's trying to break it up, and Netanyahu went to fucking Biden and said this. Basically, shut the fuck up. He didn't call him for a month after he got in office. He said Israel has the means and the ability and the will to destroy the Iranian nuclear program and infrastructure. And if you don't think we will, you're going to be deeply, rudely mistaken.
Well, you're talking about one of the top countries in the world with covert ops.
With who?
With covert ops.
Right.
The Mossad, oh my God, you don't mess with them.
You don't mess, well, you know what? You heard about the, what was it, not Syntax, it was, Syntax, the virus we sent in, it'll come to me in a second, Sin, and the world's terrified of it, but we worked on it with Israel. It went in, and they didn't allow anything into their, the centrifuges.
Right.
What this thing did, the centrifuge, on the meters it would say everything's okay, but it had the centrifuges go at 10 times the normal speed and destroyed them. And the funny thing, the centrifuges, if they go, at a quarter speed, they still fall apart. And and they couldn't figure it out. They kept reading their things. They thought, well, we bought this from North Korea. They must have bought shit. We really fucked up, we put their program back. But then in Israel, we were doing this quietly, like they sit back, quietly do it. Israel became more aggressive with it, and that's how it got found out. It was discovered. It would still be working. They still wouldn't have figured it out. What was the Israel? What was the name? You've heard the name.
But it was a computer virus.
This thing was so big, like Siemens, let's say a Siemens modulator, and maybe a Dell for computer chip. It went around buildings around the world looking for those one special things.
Okay.
And finally, when it found all these things were in the right place, it quietly sat there, and then it kicked on.
Yeah, that is what you call a targeted virus.
This was a thing that they're so afraid of because it was brilliant in other countries. Stuxnet.
Okay.
You get some videos on TV, they'll tell you about it. I'm pissed off at the Israelis for getting too aggressive and too greedy because we were fucking up all their centrifuges quietly. Like, maybe let's say there was 1,000. We'd destroy like 70 of them at a time. Then a week later, another 7. They went in there and tried to do it all. And then that's where it was found.
Yeah, you get too greedy and that's when problems happen. Yeah.
My brother, the aviator, he's in D.C. Too. He's the attorney now for the F-35.
Okay.
That's cool. Other than the F-22 Raptor, it's can't see it. I mean, the Russian SS-400s, they say they can see stealth, but we can already knock out their systems. And they won't give China their any more SS-300s, or they'll just give them an SS-200. So I mean, China's nothing to us.
Right.
It's cool.
China's
Biden is already, I mean, he's made so many executive orders to help China. In the China Sea, they say it's theirs, the Hague said it isn't, and so do all they've attacked the countries there. They created the Quad, the U.S., Australia, Japan, and India. India just kicked the shit out of them in the mountains, Rocky Mountains.
Okay.
So what happened is they created the Quad, and they went right through the Straits of Taiwan between China, around the Senkaku Islands, and China wouldn't dare fuck with us. Biden's first fucking day in office, they sent 82 fighters and 18 bombers into fucking Taiwan airspace, and Biden did nothing. And now, we had 3 missile attacks on our bases in Iraq. You know what Trump did? He chopped Soleimani up. He killed him. Biden hasn't done anything. And now China, I mean, come on. His son, as far as we know, is more a $1.8 billion hedge fund, right? His commission on that is anywhere from 90 to 140 million. And now it's supposedly another billion somewhere.
Okay, I don't know a whole lot about hedge funds, so.
About what?
About hedge funds.
A hedge fund is like the riskier type of money.
Right.
You know what? There's lending money into loan, you pay it back.
Right.
And then there's equity lending. Okay, you got a good idea, but a bank won't loan you on it. We'll give you the equity. We're partners with you. And okay, your 100 million we give you, you give us back 200, 300 million out. Because it's such a good idea, we know it'll be really good, very profitable.
Right.
So that's a hedge fund. And you make a lot of money, because I did a lot of lending, it's equity lending. And it was hard money, the shit I was doing. But he has no experience in it. I mean, I know more about it than he does. And I wonder how he got the job. His dad was vice president. Oh, the South China Sea, those countries that said the Quad. Under Trump, it was free passage and defense, right? Biden changed it to like security and commerce, which is going to allow China to invade and attack, you know what I mean? He had to back off of that just yesterday, today. He's been humiliated at the G7 yesterday and 4 days ago. The Quad. He had to take back all of his words. The shit Trump did, they hated him at first, remember that? But now they're all sticking to his foreign policy of strength. And the fun thing is, he's destroying the Republican Party, which I love. Getting rid of political correctness, and the more shit they do to him, he keeps coming out, winning.
Who are we talking about?
Trump. I mean, the world now has picked up his policies. And Biden went in there thinking, you know, when he said, me and Barack, we're going to kick in Barack's line. I mean, this horrible 4 years. And it was the best economy in freaking decades. And our military is stronger, all of this. And NATO got stronger. And now these countries aren't listening to them.
Certain on that, but what? I don't know if he actually does or don't.
Oh no, he does. He absolutely does. I've seen people with it. You actually look at his eyes sometimes. He's got blue eyes, and I've got a lot of Irish and Scottish. Some people in my family have blue eyes, and I remember when they started getting dementia. He's got that look. Yesterday, he doesn't talk. He'll stand up and read a teleprompter and won't take questions. He was standing there like this. He couldn't put his mask on. Oh my God. And then his speech. I mean, and you know how they do the script? What do you call it?
Teleprompter?
Not the teleprompter, but underneath.
Oh, the closed caption.
Yeah, the closed captioning. It goes, either, the nigger. it says it on the closed captioning. And last week, Hispanics and blacks are rural and urban, and some blacks and Hispanics are unable to sign up to vote online or use a computer. They aren't able to, so we have to do things where they don't need ID. Now that's an insult if you're black or Hispanic. I'm just having fun watching how I mean, I'm terrified but still not. And I know you have different opinions, ideas. But I mean, I still can't. I don't believe in open borders. He just allowed that. He signed an executive order for people we deported, right? Who had convictions and warrants for rape, sexual molestation, and that will allow them back in. And he's inviting everyone that got deported. And ICE was only deporting people with crimes, violent crimes.
Right.
He has invited them back. And he's offered them free health care and college. Because he has, I saw that one, I'm like, what? It's just, I think it's crazy.
My question is, who reported it?
What's that?
Who reported that this is happening?
What do you mean? You can go on YouTube, or you can go to different sites, and let's say they've cut off a lot of conservative sites, but if you go to them, I don't believe what I say right away, but I'll go and look it up, and there you'll see it. On YouTube or on the TV channel website. In fact, the thing he said about it was a CNN town hall where he said China are good people even though they torture and kill the Uyghurs. It's genocide, right? And he said we can trust them, they won't steal. And then he also said the thing about Hispanics and blacks. What they did on YouTube, on C-SPAN, and on CNN, they edited it out. it out, those things he said. But there's still, I actually downloaded the whole thing. I'm like, did he really say that? And somebody told me that?
I mean, media sucks anyways.
The media is censoring. They're not allowing people who dissent. I mean, right now, I was looking at the drops, or the other day, on the election. There were like 5 of them in those states, 57,000, 65,000, right? Drops, 100% for Biden. That doesn't happen in the real world. Mathematic. I mean, the mathematic impossibilities of what happened. And not to allow people to hand look at these, because the guy right now, they say, if they were mailed out, they have the guy who created the QR code said, 1, the QR code will tell you. 2, they'll have the folds and there's a crack in the ink that people don't really pick up on, and under that ink you can see what's under it. Okay, there is actually digital information under it, and he can tell you right like that. You just take a pile, bring them, and he did it. And he went through a bunch. I don't know where he got them from. And he goes, these were not even printed in the same press. They were printed some other with lesser quality paper. But they won't allow a review. Now, why won't you allow a review? I mean, Maricopa County isn't allowing anyone to look. I called up 5-6 days later. They said I didn't vote. I went off on them, and they had mine. And then I called back, and then I called 5-6 days later after that. And then, okay, we found it. The girl who lives at the house I'm living at, she got 5 or 6 ballots. Pennsylvania, I lived in Jersey. I dealt with Pennsylvania all the time. I saw the fraud there. They sent out, there were requested 300,000 ballots. They got 700,000. They had 300,000 more ballots than people registered to vote. Now, those are red flags. Here, you got a weird fucking law in Arizona. You don't have to live here. Show ID, show a license, show birth certificate, anything, and you can vote in national elections. And they had 17,000 votes there, so, right? And is it illegals can drive here?
I don't know.
They have a record of a list of illegal. I thought it was driving, because in Nevada it was 25,000. You're allowed to drive. You're legal. You can get a driver's license, right? But you can't vote. The driver's license, they voted. Here, it was 34,000 illegals. They added the addresses, the names, on the list. So many ways, man.
I don't know on that, because I don't know if they could actually go back and overturn.
No, I'm not talking about overturn. You can't overturn it. But let's get the truth out. You know? Because, and this is what really flips me out about the Supreme Court. I don't understand it. They filed before, because if you read the Constitution, I've read it, only the state legislature can make the rules, times for the voting, right? The federal government only tells you the date, okay? And it was 8 p.m. In Pennsylvania, okay? And then that's it, cut off. Bureaucrats voting supervisors, judges, governors cannot change that. And what happened was they did. And that's like, for example, why in Bush v. Gore, you had different election boards creating their own rules, and they squarely said the law is this, and the Pennsylvania Supreme Court can't, or the Florida Supreme Court can't change it for each county. This is it. This is the time. That's it. And somehow you start allowing bureaucrats to get in the right position. They're going to have more power than the people you elect. It's really good if it's for you, yeah, like it's fine, but that's not the way it should be.
Right.
And that's what happened. I mean, seriously, if by your law says, Wisconsin said, Wisconsin Supreme Court came back and said this, you just can't claim, infirmity and get an absentee ballot. You must prove it, right? So that was 300,000 ballots, which was questionable, which would have been illegal. But then they said that they broke the law, that wasn't legal, they didn't have the right to do that. But the state, again, and these were Biden supported, like the Secretary of State, I mean, anybody else, law enforcement would have said no, and they would have thrown it out. They said, well, they didn't tell us what to do, so we're still counting them. I mean, I don't know. It just makes me sick, because I work with numbers too, and there are patterns. And when you look at those spikes, or then when you see a 70, 80, 100,000, and like almost none for Trump when he was winning, getting 60% of the vote, it's something's up. And it only happened when everything was closed. I mean, anybody with common sense knows something happened there. I saw it. I worked at Citigroup, and I had money, street money, and these guys, and they said voting fraud doesn't happen. They had about 10 to 12 vans, and I donated to the party. I got it, right? They filled the vans up at like 6 in the morning, and I was there. The guy would drive around, pick up 12 homeless people, right? He had a list, and each time, and he would take them from fucking 10 to 12 different precincts to vote that day, and each time they voted, they got $10 or $15, so they get like 100 something for the day, right? And they would each vote 10 to 12 times. And this was van after vans full.
I mean, the whole provisional ballot, that's when that comes into play. And they check the provisional ballots.
But provisional ballots, they verify your information to see if you're registered and you're legal to vote.
Right.
Right. Okay, but they get ID. These places, no other country in the world, Mexico or no country in the world, allows this except the Democrats here, because all the other countries in the world want photo ID, the hologram, proof of citizenship, proof of address, and if you get caught illegally voting, you go to prison. Here, they call it racist, or you're making it too hard for them to, the minorities to vote. Are they retarded? No. I mean, what is so wrong? Bring ID, prove who you are, and verification of signature. Read the Time magazine article. What's her name? She's a staunch Democrat, and she wrote Hillary Clinton's biography. Look up the Time article about the coup, and she's proud of it, how they rigged the election. and she tells you a lot about it. And it started with a meeting at Mark Zuckerberg's house. They got all these people together, including nonprofits, and what they were going to do in battleground areas, battlegrounds counties, is do exactly what we saw happen on different levels. And that was the dinner at Zuckerberg's. They talk. Look up the Time article about that. And then there's other information, but that one, and this ad's coming from a liberal Democrat, and they're admitting it. And oh, look how brilliant we were. We had this dinner. We didn't want Trump in there. We wanted to become a part of the global world with the EU, you know? We had to get rid of him. I mean, Zuckerberg spent $400 million, right? And this was against the law, too. Sticking boxes for, you know, ballots in the middle of urban areas. They were stuffed with phony ballots. You're supposed to, what they call a chain of custody, have someone there watching it and then verifying them. They just stuck him in the middle of the streets. Like, that was it. And all you had to do was look at the rallies.
Okay, what about the rallies?
That?
What about the rallies?
Across the country, I went to my buddy called me up on Chandler Boulevard. He said there's a Biden, rally. I went out there, I brought a couple of beers. There were 40 cars, 10 Priuses, 10 mopeds, so there were really 20 cars, right? 20, maybe 40, 50, right? The same day, I think it was down this road, 36 miles on both sides for Trump. Then the next week, and this was Arizona again, it was 96 miles. And they pulled off on the side too. They were having like their parties, And you saw these guys. It happened in New York. New York City. They had people attack them and that, but I mean, and I know New York. I'm an East Coast guy. You had all the Italians, all the Jews. You had, it was huge, and they couldn't be attacked anymore. Or even in Portland, where they're having the riots. Antifa, black, they're really brave. When the cops won't fight back, or they can burn something down. But they didn't do a thing to the rally in fucking Portland. And that was a rally of what? 30,000 cars? 20 or 30? Biden couldn't get fucking 20 people together. And the inauguration was open. You could go for the inauguration. He had 200 people.
Actually, everywhere reported the inauguration was closed.
It wasn't closed. You could get in, and they would check you. You could get in. You could get in. I mean, my cousin went in. You could get in. You could see people on the what do you call it? Washington Monument, the water there. They were having actually, it was some Trump people having a picnic there. Getting a kick out of it. When he did his President's Day speech, he had 4,000 people watch it. Trump, he's not even in office, had 1.2 million. I do know, man. I thought at first it was bullshit, but then I started looking at the fucking numbers, and the court cases were not that they said it was proven. No. They said procedurally you're wrong, okay? And what the Supreme Court did was fucking unbelievable. They said They brought the case before, said they broke the law, right? And what they told them is, you don't have standing, but they said we do, because we are part of the party, and they did it before the election, but then they said after the election, the point's moot. It's over. Well, if anything, they should have at least gone in there and said, okay, these election, you can't be doing this for future elections. Now you're going to have all kinds of problems. People changing elections. People are going to get pissed off. I don't blame them. It's like the guy, Black Lives Matter, was banging on his car, them in Antifa, and he ran over 4 of them. I think 2 died. You know? Or the guy from Antifa pointed the gun at the guy in Texas, and the guy in the car just shot. The guy, it was pointed an AK-47. I don't feel bad for those guys. They're pushing people to the limits. Okay, I told you, look it up, the Time magazine article. Also look at the motorcade of Biden going into, for his presidency. The National Guard had 90% of the National Guard turned away, had their back towards him. Think about that. The military and National Guard, 90% of them. They were insulted, number one. The military, I know that they're more conservative anyway, but they're also insulted that their comrades were questioned about their patriotism, and they were screamed, which has never happened before, whether they would be there with their, platoon or their groups, right? Well, we saw that you had a MAGA hat. You're not going to be guarding you're going home. And that pissed off a lot of people in the military. And then making them sleep on the garage floor. 5,000 National Guard with 1 bathroom. Biden was pissed off, or his people were, whatever, and they had their backs towards them. So they moved them, they stuck them in the garage. Or the other day, 2 days ago, he said white supremacism is caused by ex-military and ex-cops. And that's who we have to investigate. I don't know what press you listen to. I don't know why you haven't seen this.
Because I don't watch the media. It's all...
You can't watch MSNBC or CNN.
I don't watch any media. It's one of those...
Watch an actual event with him. I'm telling you, like watching the thing where he said, either nigger, or Hispanics and blacks, urban and rural Hispanics and blacks really can't figure out how to use stuff online, so and I got a lot of Hispanic friends and black, and they're like, what? Everyone's got a smartphone. You got a smartphone, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't even know how to use a smartphone?
I know some white people that don't.
Well, do they have ID?
Yep.
So, that's all you need.
But, I mean, I know some people that the only thing they can do on a smartphone is open up YouTube.
Yeah, well, yeah, or social media.
So they don't even know how to do social media. They only know how to open up YouTube. And they're lucky to even be able to do that. But the one I know, he smoked himself stupid.
Smokes a lot of dope?
Oh, smokes a lot of pot, yeah.
I'm not good with pot. Some people are. I get the munchies and want to watch the Flintstones. I get paranoid.
See, I get the munchies, I get the cotton mouth, and then I go to sleep.
Yeah. I'm more open with everything. I mean, now they're finding, hallucinogens. They found out 6 new
mushrooms.
Or LSD. They were doing microdosing, 10%. Let's say they were using 2 milligrams rather than 20. Acid. Nobel scientists, quantum theory with entanglement, and then the DNA, the double helix.
Yeah.
They couldn't figure it out for years. They thought it was a ribbon. They knew the shit was there. The guy was he admitted. He said, and then I came up a double ribbon with a chain. These are guys who got the Nobel Prize. Bob Dylan got it. He said the same thing when I'd write my music. He got it for music and authorship, art. He said I would microdose. Not big hits. Now they're using ecstasy, MDMA, for PTSD.
Oregon or Washington, one of those states, actually took mushrooms off of the list.
They found, and I have some funny stories with it, but with the ecstasy. It also kicks in oxytocin, and that's like the hormone, especially like when a woman has a baby, she bonds with the baby.
Yeah.
People fall in love, and that's why people really love each other at when they're at raves and all this, and they got a lot of sex in that too. But that's how people get through doing that. Or actually,
so which building are you in?
There.
Which one are you going? Which one?
Keep going.
Are we going?
I think we're going to go around that circle up front. See that line up here? Wait. Yeah, wait.
What is the place you're trying to get to?
It's a Nexus. I think it's make a right. It's over there. That's it.
Okay.
You like mushrooms?
No. I'm just saying I read the article that said that it is now approved and no longer not as controlled of a substance in one of those states.
Some of the stuff they're finding has helped people. Alcoholism before they outlawed LSD. On one trip, 40% stopped drinking, which I was amazed. It's a cool study, some cool studies on it. But it was abused.
Right.
But now they're starting to wake up, Like the same thing with pot. Now there's some benefits. I don't smoke pot, but there are benefits.
Right.
I appreciate it.
You have a good day, John.
Safe. Have a good time.
Oh, yeah.